So this is the 10:30 briefing for Hurricane Laura. The good news is there haven't been any significant changes. The intensity has been increased a little bit in the forecast to 120 miles per hour, and that's edged up 5 miles an hour from the last advisory. Still in the Category 3 range, and confidence is increasing on landfall between the Bolivar Peninsula and Cameron Parish, Louisiana. The model guidance this evening that I looked at came in really tightly clustered around the current forecast track, so there really wasn't much reason to make any changes. So I don't have to point out where Laura is to you when you take a look at the satellite image here from about an hour and a half ago. Aircraft reconnaissance has been flying during the evening, and they've been noting the pressure is falling and the winds are increasing. And that makes sense. It's over warm water, and the wind shear is very light right now. So I think, unfortunately, to some degree, the forecast is going to pan out, and we have a decent chance of rapid intensification over the next 24 hours. I mean, while we were talking to the specialist between that 45 minutes and when he issued the advisory, it went up 5 knots. So it's probably already begun. And so there's pretty high confidence that we will see a Category 3 hurricane before landfall. Getting those maximum sustained winds up to 90. Really, you can really zoom in and look at that forecast track, and it looks like there's just a nudge a little bit to the east. But generally it's still pretty locked in, as it has been at the center of our cone for the Sabine Pass state line area. The cone is getting a little bit smaller. We're getting close. I mean, landfall is only now a little bit more than 24 hours away. So I would expect the center to track inside the cone, especially given we have a hurricane and it's moving at a decent clip. Those are usually not high air cases, especially when our model guidance is now becoming clustered. I think that's all I'm going to say on this slide. Again, it seems pretty straightforward at this point where Laura is headed. And all of our watches and warnings appear appropriate at this time. We will have an expanding wind field, so it looks like that hurricane warning area is appropriate and the tropical storm warning, and so none of this actually changed. The only thing that might have changed, I didn't go back and check, is Shreveport probably changed this hurricane watch in pink to a hurricane warning. And note with this 15 to maybe even a little bit faster movement, 15 miles an hour faster once inland, this should bring hurricane force winds 100 miles inland, especially since we're starting at a major hurricane. So that's going to be a lot of wind for East Texas and western Louisiana. Haven't seen that in a while. Storm surge watch warning did not change, neither did the coastal flood advisory. So still very concerned about that, and we'll talk about some of those values. Still don't have a flash flood watch in our area, but just to the east we do. This looks appropriate. We'll have to kind of monitor this very eastern northeast area. It is somewhat track dependent still, but the primary flash flood threat is just off to our east. And Dan showed this, and it hasn't really changed. The wind and surge are our main risks, both in the high category. This also hasn't changed. So I've got a lot of this hasn't changed, and that's probably a good thing at this point. Unless, of course, we could get lucky and it would weaken, which is what everybody would want. But as far as not complicating things for the forecast, it's pretty straightforward compared to what we briefed earlier. Still looking at that arrival time of Wednesday evening for winds along the coast. Of course, that's going to vary a little bit. As you can see, it kind of arcs inland a little bit more there over Louisiana, but it's roughly going to be the late afternoon into the early evening hours, most likely time. And Dan showed you that HurryVac tool where you can really zoom in on locations. And these probabilities for tropical storm force winds are continue to rise near the track as would be expected as we're getting closer and closer. In some cases now we're getting near 100% there near the state line and just to the east. Also seeing a little bump up in the damaging wind. Really tight gradient on the west side. So this is, we'll still be watching this a little bit tomorrow, but with the track that we have right now, and this does factor in a little bit of error running an ensemble, really high probabilities there for damaging winds in East Texas and kind of on our eastern edge of our CWA now too there, and then of course in western Louisiana. We won't dwell on this. We've kind of talked about the hurricane wind probabilities, very track dependent. This didn't change either. The only thing that did change is adjusted a foot upward here between Searim State Park over to Intercoastal City. So that area 9 to 14 feet now. We left it the same over here, really with nothing much changing. It seems appropriate to just go with what our modeling has been telling us. And this is the potential storm surge flooding, which you can view at hurricanes.gov or in HurryVac. And it's really easier to kind of zoom in and look at areas. This actually nudged down just a little bit in our area. And it's probably just due to the fact that the spread of the ensemble's tightening up a little bit. The cone's getting a little closer. So if we had some of the solutions a little bit further left, those are sort of disappearing in the ensemble, I think. But nonetheless, we still have significant risk right along the coast. And if there was a little bit of a left deviation, these would come up. But even without any deviation here greater than 3 feet into that 6 foot range, even over here by High Island, significant storm surge here for Bolivar. And notice too, on the north shore facing areas in the bay, you could see some significant surge as we get northerly winds with an easterly pass of a major hurricane. Again, just kind of zooming in. And again, if you really want to pick these apart, these will change again. And I guess just a little bit after this call, as they'll be on this. This is off the 4 p.m. Track. Of course, the track didn't change a whole lot, but we did get a little closer in time. So again, we won't dwell on this. Dan went over this pretty well. We still have the storm surge flooding risk in the low-lying areas, quite a bit of areas in that 1 to 3 foot range, and some areas in a 3 to 6 foot range. This stayed exactly the same. The 5 to 6 to 10 inch rainfall, really close to High Island and off to the east, and then tapering off to the west. With rain bands right across this area, likely across Galveston Bay and kind of eastern Harrisburg, we'll see some rain bands. That's what we expect. There could be some training rain, so we still have a locally heavy rain threat and possibly see some isolated higher totals than that, even on the west side. But in general, the highest threat is off to our east. And that's what the excessive rainfall outlook also indicates. And you see the flash flood watch generally aligns with the moderate risk. I did add that forecast confidence graphic back since it was missed. And I bumped it up a little bit because of the clustering model guidance getting closer in time. And we are seeing Laura intensify. So I'm feeling pretty confident on what we've got right now as a forecast. Unfortunately, that's a forecast of life-threatening storm surge and very dangerous winds with a major hurricane. And again, some localized flash flooding, mainly extreme eastern areas. Okay, so with that, I'm going to stop the recording and we will unmute everybody.
Thanks, Lance.
You're welcome. And oh, you're welcome, Lou. I saw that from Lou and Krista. Yeah.